Welcome to my review of Logan, directed by James Mangold, an action drama centered on James Logan Howlett in the near future of 2029, where nearly all of his mutant friends have died off and has become one of the last remaining few of his kind. However, after a caring mother seeks the help of the once immortal Wolverine to protect her daughter Laura, a young girl with claws of her own, from a band of lethal mercenaries, Logan and Charles Xavier discover that Laura is their only hope of preserving what is left of those with special abilities. So as I've just stated, Logan is directed by James Mangold, who is most notably known for directing the Johnny Cash biopic Walk the Line. He also directed 3:10 to Yuma, which is not only a great western, but is also one of the very few great remakes out there. And he also directed the previous Wolverine film titled The Wolverine, a movie I never did get around to seeing, but a movie I actually may give a chance because I admire Logan just so damn much. Now, as you all probably already know by now, Logan did obtain its R rating, something that fans have been clamoring for pretty much ever since the early 2000s. However, just because a film does obtain a more mature rating from the MPAA doesn't necessarily correlate to quality. Anybody can write a few fucks. Anybody can show a few boobs. Anybody can have a film that is overly violent just for the sake of being overly violent. What's amazing about Logan is that it never once steeps into gratuitous levels. It's not trying to be edgy just for the sake of being edgy. Its ultimate aspiration is to paint this realistic landscape in a stripped down, moderately intimate, very non-glamorized, non-flashy, gritty western, something that just wouldn't be capable with the restraints of a PG-13 rating. Everything has its purpose, especially when the movie does venture into more violent territory, and it's here is where the movie is able to effectively convey why Logan desires to be alone, why he's so afraid of getting close to people. And the reason why he's so afraid of getting close to people, and the reason why he's afraid of people getting close to him, is because bad shit just tends to follow him, and he tends to do bad shit when bad shit follows him. The movie even makes a point with this meta revelation in the film when Logan picks up these X-Men comic books that Laura's carrying around, and then he just completely scolds her for subjecting herself to such material with these sugar-coated narratives and these just bullshit endings. By bringing that up, this movie is trying to separate itself from the other comic book-based films out there, most specifically what Disney has been doing with their Marvel properties, creating these very safe, inoffensive films. This movie is trying to be taken more seriously, and from where I stand, this movie succeeds where a lot of films tend to fall flat, which is create something that feels very authentic. And what I really like about Logan here, which is supposedly Hugh Jackman's final portrayal as this character, is that he is just so freaking worn down. Like, you can really tell that this guy has been through some real shit. He's working as a limo driver somewhere along the border of Mexico, of all places, driving annoying tourists around. His claws, they don't get up like they used to, so he's got to take Viagra for those motherfuckers. And not only has Logan began aging and is now discovering his mortality, but his best friend, the one person who he would go to when he ever needed advice, Charles Xavier, has now gotten old as well and is suffering from dementia. Dementia that causes his telepathic powers to go just completely awry when he doesn't take his meds. So not only is Logan caring for an ailing father figure, but he's also having to protect this little girl who is kind of an uncontrollable weapon herself. Now, I do have a central problem with this film, and it does coincide with the character of Laura, who is played incredibly well by Daphne Keane, make no mistake. However, what's important to note is that she is a mute. And I can't help but feel that that was maybe a bit of a misstep in the characterization. By taking this route, I did feel like there was a lack of depth in the relationship between Logan and Laura, given that such an approach really doesn't leave for a whole hell of a lot of complex interactions between the two of them. Though that's not to say that their relationship is shallow, but by the end of their journey, even despite being where the third act goes, I did leave the film feeling a little colder than I would have liked to, at least for an initial viewing. Another problem that I have, though it's not a huge one, are the antagonists. They do pose as a threat, mostly because of the relentless nature of the film. However, they just come across as just disposable things for Logan and Laura to fight. And even though the big baddie played by Boyd Holbrook isn't bad, he's just kind of forgettable. And there's also a character that makes an appearance in the tail end of the second act that does admittedly make for some pretty cool looking fight scenes. However, the character also reminded me of something that I would probably see in X-Men Origins Wolverine versus Logan. And anything that reminds me of X-Men Origins Wolverine is probably not very good. Just saying. Now let's talk about some of the performances. Albeit that I may not be as well versed in the Wolverine related films as some, if I had to base this of what I have seen of the character, this is by far the best performance I've seen by Hugh Jackman as this character. And if this is truly his final reprisal as this character, then he did go off on a very high note, especially when he's acting opposite of Patrick Stewart, who I have to say actually gives a somewhat heartbreaking performance. Or at least it may be heartbreaking to the people who have grown so close to the character of Charles Xavier and to Logan as well. And it's really with those two is where I feel a lot of the heart comes from in this film. There's also Stephen Merchant who plays Caliban. Really like that character, really like that performance. And there's also Daphne Keane, who I think is very impressive despite her being restrained. As for any last statements, the action is very well shot. This is a very, very good looking movie. It actually kind of reminded me a little bit of Hell or High Water. And since we're talking about cinematography, I mean, this movie ends on a final shot that's probably one of my favorites. Actually, it might just be my favorite, excluding The Dark Knight, that I've seen in a comic book based movie. I really love the final shot of this film. Overall, I don't think Logan is better than Days of Future Past. That's my favorite X-Men related film and probably always will be my favorite X-Men related film, but it's damn good and it's a close second for me. If you're somebody who's kind of grown tired of comic book movies, then this may give you something to chew on. It's not the most original, but in its presentation, it is indeed. So with all that said, I'm going to give Logan a light 4 out of 5. If you are somebody who has seen Logan, then do let me know your thoughts on it. And as always, I'm Colin Kirkland, and thank you so much for watching.